What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Trade Deadline Debate Mate special. I'm Matthew. I'm joined by the OG debate mate, Nathan Poplin. And
What's
not
good,
only is this the
everybody?
Trade Deadline special, but we haven't done a video in a while. So this is perfect. It just
Yeah,
came together
for
at the
sure.
perfect time here. And we got
Today
a
was
lot of big trades, too.
today was probably one of the more eventful trade deadlines, like especially compared to last year, which was kind of dull until the last maybe like 25 to 30 minutes. So this was stuff all day. Like you hit me up at like 11. It's not even noon yet, and we already making big trades. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah. And let's just go right. Well, first, make sure to follow us on Instagram at the Debate Mates. Follow us on Twitter at the Debate Mates. Subscribe, of course. Like, share, comment. Hopefully, we'll be getting a lot more content out to you soon, not only on YouTube, but on Instagram as well. Let us know what you guys wanted to see us do. We're more than happy to try different things, anything that you guys would like, get the viewership up. But without further ado, let's get into it. I believe I'm gonna share my screen here so you guys can see and follow along better. I think the first one I have up, yep, we're going Vucevic to the Chicago Bulls. That's what we're going to start off with here. As you can see on the screen, Magic deal Nikola Vucevic to Bulls for Wendell Carter Jr., Otto Porter Jr., and picks. Nate, this was the first trade of the day. What
hmm
were your opinions when you first saw this?
A little bit surprised. I'm not gonna lie. When we were talking about Nikola Vucevic, the Bulls were not a team that I necessarily thought were in the running. I heard the Celtics. I even heard a little bit about a Spurs Aldridge swap. But I kind of like the fit. I like the idea of Vucevic and Zach LaVine. I just like the idea of getting Zach LaVine some help. I was expecting the Bulls to grab Alonzo today, but they grabbed Vucevic, was a nice little twist. And they lose Wendell, but hey, I mean Vucevic is better. But the thing also that was great for Chicago is they get off that Otto Porter contract. I mean, Otto Porter's a solid player, but that contract's kind of been a thorn in their side. You know what I mean? So I thought it was a great deal, great trade. What do you think? How did you feel about it?
I'm happy with the Bulls, and I'm happy with the Magic. They did a lot of good moves today, I think. But sticking with this Bulls trade first, this is kind of what the Rockets wanted to be last year, right? We're seeing Zach LaVine at the shooting guard. He's going to shoot a lot of threes. Lauri Markkanen is their power forward. He's going to get up a lot of threes. And Vooch, he's going to get up a lot of threes. As Kendrick
Mm-hmm.
Perkins says his name, Big Vusa.
To
So they're going to be able to stretch the court out really well. And I mean, this is great for the NBA. The Lakers
yeah,
and the Clippers are both relevant and contenders. The Celtics are relevant and kind of a contender. We'll get to them later. The Knicks are back. They're in the playoffs. And the Bulls, one of the most historic basketball cities ever, is looking like they're going to be a playoff team. They have two All-Stars right now. So the
yeah,
NBA won the trade deadline. Their biggest cities are huge contenders now, or at least not contenders. They're at least competitive. So
yeah.
great move for Chicago to get Boost. And I just like the fit there. Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic, that's a great fit. Otto Porter Jr. wasn't doing much for them. And I have a feeling he's just a
It
rental for the
really
Magic.
is.
They'll let
Yeah,
his contract go after 1 year. Overall, great trade by the Magic and a great
yeah,
get by the Bulls.
yeah. All around, great way to start off the day. It was start off the trade deadline day. It was great.
Yeah, and the bigger news down here, Al-Farouq Aminu.
Oh, goodness gracious! If you had said that maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, maybe I'd be a little more excited. Blazers Al-Farouq Aminu, but I don't know. I'm sorry, but Al-Farouq Aminu is just not a very good role player anymore. I don't even know how much he averaged on the Magic. It might have been like 7 or 8 points a game coming off the bench. Uh, maybe you feel different. Do you like Al-Farouq Aminu?
I'm not a huge fan of him, but I'm going to hit you with the Bulls starting lineup now. Just
Mm-hmm.
see where you think this ranks as far as Eastern Conference teams go.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Satoransky or Kobe White at point guard, Zach LaVine at shooting guard, Project Pat Williams at small forward,
The
Lauri
Paul.
Markkanen at power forward, and Nikola Vucevic at center. Where do we rank that as far as starting lineups in the East?
I think Vucevic definitely raises them. If I'm correct, they're the ninth seed right now, right? So, I think this team, this starting five, gets them to the sixth or the seventh seed. I definitely think this is a playoff team now. You don't add Vucevic, a second All Star, and not at the very least make the playoffs. But I
Yeah,
think they'll be good enough to make maybe the 6 or 7 seed to play either the Heat or the Bucks, which would be very entertaining matchups to say the least. So yeah, I think they're definitely playoff contenders at this point.
yeah. Well, one of my big losers is the Pacers because every team around them got better. And the
And they
Pacers have a
kind
very solid lineup to begin with,
of
but the East is going to be really deep this year. And the Bulls are looking to take that spot from the Pacers, whether it's in a play-in game where they just make it to the 9 or 10 seed. That's all you need to do this season. And they end up
yeah.
beating the Pacers in a play-in tourney game. I would probably, I don't know who I'd give the edge to in that matchup, but the teams behind the Pacers are getting involved. They're trying to become contenders or at least make the playoffs, trying to get aggressive. And I'm still not counting out the Wizards. So I'm a little disappointed that the Pacers didn't make any moves. I think this starting lineup, they could be seventh or eighth. I think I'm not going much higher than that. I think the Hornets fall out with the LaMelo Ball injury, but other than
Yeah.
that, the top 8 teams in the East are all pretty good. So even if they don't
Yeah.
make the playoffs, I don't know if I would be shocked. I think a play-in tourney game wouldn't be
Yeah.
out of the question for them. But I'm just glad to see that they're
Mm-hmm.
at least getting competitive. They have a better lineup on paper than the Knicks, and you could not quite the Celtics. Their lineup isn't the most cohesive, but I'd still give the edge to Boston. But this lineup is going to be really good. It's going to be a problem, especially if they make it to the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. And to kind of it is sad that the Pacers made like absolutely no moves, but then again, we don't know if they didn't try, but that's just the reality and the struggles of being a small market team. I mean, we're sitting here talking about Chicago, New York, Orlando. Like these are bigger market teams. Nobody is dying to go play in Indiana, and I'm sorry, that's the so who knows? They could have made a couple of attempts. Maybe they made a run at Voos or something, maybe a Voos Miles Turner swap, and it just didn't work out. I don't know. But yeah, I definitely think there's a good chance they don't make the playoffs. It's what's sad because it's a solid starting five,
Yeah.
and then you have Justin Holiday who's solid off the bench. You have a couple solid pieces coming off the bench, but it just doesn't seem to work. I think maybe they do need to think about blowing it up a little bit. I know they've been trying to shop Miles Turner. I even heard Malcolm Brogdon might be on the chopping block. So I don't know. I think I'd like to see him try to blow it up a little bit and build a little bit more around Karis LeVert and
Montes
Domantas
Sabonis would fit
Sabonis.
really well with the Celtics. He would look good in green.
He looked terrific in green, but I don't foresee that. I wish that would happen, but
All right, moving
maybe
on.
one day I would love it. It would be absolutely he'd be absolute stud.
Speaking of green, Evan Fournier is now a Boston Celtic. Uh, the okay, we'll cut that out too. The Magic get $17 million in credit. This trade is gonna really take a lot of off of their cap space, so they're gonna have a lot more room. They got 2 second-round
Yeah,
picks, and I think a later addition was Jeff Teague, who immediately got
yeah.
waived.
Mm-hmm.
Nate, as a Celtics fan, let's go from that angle first. How do you like Fournier's fit with Boston?
At first, I've never been big on Fournier. He's a great player. I've just never been big. At first, it was kind of like the first I ever heard of it. I didn't hear of us just getting Fournier. I heard of a Fournier Aaron Gordon kind of thing, and that obviously didn't turn out. But the more I think about it, Evan Fournier, I believe, averaged 18 to 20 points when he was playing in Orlando. Some say those numbers were inflated on a mediocre team. But hey, I still think he gives you at bare minimum 15 a night. You can always use more shooting, as far as I'm concerned. It's a shooting league. 3 point, he could great 3 point shooter, great inside scorer, great mid range. He's an average, maybe a little above average defender. So I think nice bench piece. Unless you want to run a lineup where we move Jaylen Brown to the 3 and then start him at the 2 and have Smart come off the bench. Overall, I think he's a great scorer. I think it's a great move. We needed scoring coming off our bench. That was one of our biggest struggles this year, is scoring coming off the bench. We've always been a great defensive team, but offenses are struggles. So I'm glad we have a pure scorer, pure shooter on the roster, and I'm excited.
Yeah, and this helps because in games when Kemba Walker is struggling, they can put Fournier in down the stretch, and teams
Mm-hmm.
won't go at Kemba on defense, or teams wouldn't be able to go at Fournier on defense because of his size. They won't be able to post him up like what happened to Kemba so many times in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I'm a really big fan of this move for the Celtics. At first, I was a little confused when you and I were messaging about it when it first happened. but
Yeah.
it kind of makes sense. He is a Gordon Hayward light. He can come off the bench. I think that's what his role is. He'll give them 17 to 20 points per game, I think. Probably close to 38% shooting from three, 45-ish from the field. Pretty efficient numbers. Not quite the facilitator Hayward is. Can't quite be that first option, like all around. But I think he's a great threat off the bench, and he can come in and fill in for the starting lineup. He can shoot it really well, so he can fit as either the number one option in the second unit or the fourth or fifth option in the starting lineup. And if you have Fournier as your fourth or fifth best player in the starting lineup, or with the starters out on the court, I think you're doing really well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
Also for the price, I mean, 2 second rounders and then throw in Jeff Teague, who struggled. I wanted Jeff Teague to succeed, but I'm sad he got immediately waived. But I'm sure somebody, playoff contender, will pick him up down the stretch at some point going into the playoffs. You can't really beat that. You can't complain. Only 2 second round picks for a bona fide stud. 6'7" Evan Fournier, good size, good, very balanced player. So, yeah, I think this is great all around. I was confused, like you. Probably many Celtics fans were confused at first, but I think overall it will end up being an absolute steal when we look back on this for 2 second round picks and Jeff Teague. So, I'm satisfied.
the only question I have about Fournier is, or not really a question, but he does not elevate us to the tier of the Celtic, or not the Celtics, the Nets or the 76ers. Or after the deals the Heat have made, we're not even in the Heat's tier anymore. There is a clear line between the top of the East and the Celtics right now, and Fournier is not what the Celtics needed to put them above that line. They needed an Aaron Gordon type of player,
Well,
a
no.
Harrison Barnes, I think. I mean, Fournier might be better than those players, but the Celtics needed a more of a facilitator, I think, because the ball kind of stops with Tatum and Brown. They're great isolation scorers, but they aren't at that point in their career yet where they feel comfortable getting others involved as much. They're still looking for their own a little bit too much. And they've improved definitely as passers, but they needed somebody that could go out there and be the primary facilitator. Kemba does a solid job of that, but they needed somebody else to help as well. And Fournier doesn't do that for me.
Yeah. Is he going to propel us into the top 3 seeding on the level of the Nets, Sixers, or Bucks? Absolutely not. No way, no how. But I do think it makes us slightly more of a threat. Does this fix the problems? It fixes some of them, not much. Like shooting wasn't that big of an issue except off the bench, but I'll take it. Does it help us with facilitating and playmaking? No, absolutely not. Does it help us in he specifically? I mean, we add Mo Wagner, helps us a little bit in the rebounding and the paint protection, but overall, I think it propels us up to the 4th and 5th seed. We're sitting at a disappointing 8 right now, so I think this propels us and makes us better, but up to those top tier teams in the East, absolutely not. Those 3 are going to be fighting for that Eastern Conference championship.
I think right now we're a 5 seed, and with how loaded the top 4 is going to be, if the Celtics get out in the first round, we might see some major changes this offseason. And
We might need to. I mean, the Raptors before Kawhi made the playoffs every single year and did a solid job, usually made the second or third round. And they had to blow it up, and they ended up winning a ring. So maybe something similar is needed. Not necessarily the same thing, but maybe we need to blow it up a little bit and start from scratch. Not completely from scratch, but start from scratch maybe a little bit more. Trade some pieces. So yeah, I'm overall happy with the move.
yep, moving on to a different Celtics trade, a very sad one. We lost Daniel Tice. It stinks.
I
We all
know it's a
wanted.
sad day.
He missed a game winner, and they traded him the day after. Imagine how bad that must feel. Serious question: if he makes
Yeah,
that game winner last night, is Daniel Tice still a member of the Celtics?
no. I think for this trade to have been done, there was some real thought about. They in their minds in the front office thought that he was slightly expendable. Whether he made that shot or not has no consequence. This was probably in their mind. Maybe this was the change they thought they needed to get this big man out for another big man. Overall, I don't hate the move. It does suck to get to lose Tice, but hey, Mo Wagner is still solid. He's very good. He's very good scorer, inside scorer, and he's going to give us the paint protection we need. He's got a good 3 inches on Tice. He's a bona fide center at 6'9", I believe. Mo Wagner's about 7 foot, 7 foot
Yep.
one, something like that. So it is a sad day. And Celtics, I know, speaking as a Celtics fan, we all love Marcus Smart. We all love Daniel Tice. And now
Yeah.
he's gone, but I wish him nothing but the best in Chicago. I think he'll be a solid bench piece in Chicago. I'm happy for him.
I'm a little disappointed Tristan Thompson wasn't the center we traded,
Yeah.
but I like Mo Wagner a lot. Being from Virginia, we get the Wizards games every night. So I've watched a lot of Mo Wagner this season, and he just brings so much energy to the game. He hustles every play, and he's going to give Celtics much needed energy, whether it's off the bench, coming off with Fournier. He'll give them a lot of energy. Robert Williams is very skilled, very talented, but he's not really a big energy piece. You don't put him on the floor and automatically all the other four guys feel energized. Mo Wagner
Yeah.
is the complete opposite. He'll dive for a loose ball. He'll block shots, hustle down the court. He, if Robert Williams played like Mo Wagner played, he could be a all-star in his career, I think. But Robert hasn't showed that drive yet.
Yeah.
I think this is a
Yeah,
really sorry.
Oh no, you go.
We do lose the spacing that Daniel Tice provided. He was a really decent three-point shooter, solid mid-range shot as well. But like you said, we were giving up a lot of height. Maybe this move is to counter with how the East has gotten bigger. Mo Wagner, I'd say I like him a little bit better on Giannis than I would Daniel Tice. I'd like him a little bit better on Embiid than I would Daniel Tice. Same probably goes for like a Kevin Durant or whoever that center is. So it's an okay move. I like the energy he brings. I like him coming off the bench. I like him as a starter. But I think it's the end for Tristan Thompson. Whether we buy him out
Yeah.
or we just wait till the offseason and bench him, let's let the young guys go, I think.
Yeah. Not the biggest fan. I think I've been pretty vocal about Tristan Thompson, but sad to lose sight. But yeah, hey, that's completely true. That energy he brings, that off the bench along with Marcus Smart, I think that alone might be good enough to propel us to like 4 or 5 seed. I think honestly, the idea of those two energizing players coming off the bench with some scoring, because Mo Wagner's a great inside scorer. He has a nice midi. I really like his game. So I'm excited about the prospect of it. I can't wait to watch it.
I don't really understand what the Wizards were doing getting rid of him. Alex Len is not better than Mo Wagner in any
The
world. I
the
would have been
Wizards made
interested.
some question. Today was a questionable day for the Wizards, but we'll get to a little bit more about that later.
I don't see. I don't think that this is Daniel Tice's last stop either with the Bulls. I don't see where he fits with them right now. I guess they do need a backup center, but I think Tice is more of a starting caliber center in this league. Or maybe they put him in there at power forward. I think he's going to get traded eventually this offseason to a contending team. I think that's
Mhm.
he fits more on a team like that rather than a rebuilding, up and coming team. I don't
We'll
think
take him back.
his stay with the Bulls will be very long.
Yeah, I don't see him being a part of the long-term plan, but hey, I mean, for right now, I'm sure they'll take all the help they can get trying to get a playoff spot. So,
All right, moving on to the player the Celtics wish they had. We got Aaron Gordon. So Aaron Gordon is going to the Denver Nuggets, where I predicted he would go for Gary Harris, R.J.
yeah.
Hampton, and a pick. Did the Nuggets win the trade deadline day?
Uh, I mean, I think they're one of the teams that won. Yeah, I mean, this is a great pickup. Aaron Gordon, I think, fits really nice in that system. The prospect of a front court with the prospect of him next to Jokic is gonna be awesome. He's gonna bring 18 to 20 points a night. He's gonna be explosive. He's gonna be flashy. He's gonna be exciting, and I think he fits really well. And also, he's probably excited to be in a change of scenery, you know what I mean? And like a real contender, because the Magic have been mediocre occasionally, like making the eighth seed in the bubble last year. They've been kind of that run the mill, like just maybe they make it in the playoffs, but they get eliminated pretty quickly in the first round. So now he's on a legit top team in the West. And so I'm sure that's exciting that he's going to make the playoffs, and I'm sure it's going to give him a boost of energy. And they only gave up Gary Harris, R.J. Hampton, a pick. I think that's solid for both sides. I don't necessarily, maybe you do. I don't see Gary Harris as a part of the Magic's long-term plan, but RJ Hampton adds to this accruing really good like 7 to 8 young core that the Magic, because you got Cole Anthony, John Isaac, Markel Fultz, Mo Bamba. Now you bring in RJ Hampton, and like I think I'm really liking and they get picks. They've gotten a bunch of picks today, so I think this is one of the. I think most of the trades today were about even. I think both sides won. This is one where I think both sides won.
Yeah, I agree, and he fits the Jeremy Grant role that the Nuggets have been missing so much. If he gets reinvigorated here in Denver and plays up to his potential, then Denver might finish a top team in the Western Conference this season and could possibly make it to the NBA Finals, depending on how injuries work out. Joker is the MVP right now in my mind. Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray are two great complementary pieces, and they didn't have to give up Michael Porter Jr. They didn't have to give up Bol Bol. They didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't really have to give up any rotation players. They got a starter for a disappointing rotation player, a guy that's been in and out of the lineup, in Gary Harris, and RJ Hampton, a guy that plays in blowouts. They upgraded two borderline rotation players for a starter and a potential all-star caliber starter at that. If he shoots threes, if he expands his game a little bit more, he kind of does have that similar Draymond Green style play where he can facilitate, shoot. He's quick off the dribble, a crazy amount of athleticism and explosiveness, which separates him from Draymond Green in that category at least. Solid defender, good at blocking shots. He has all of the tools to be an all-star. Always has had them all. And I think if he were in a different situation for maybe the last couple of years, he would have already reached that potential. But the Magic seems like he just was disinterested there. And now he's playing for a contender, a team where they're going to need him to play well on a night-to-night basis. I think we're going to see a new Aaron Gordon, and I think it's going to be a really good Aaron Gordon.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's amazing what things like this, how much they can invigorate a player and make them want to play harder and train and be better than they've ever been before. My only real question about the Nuggets is I believe that now Gary Harris is gone. Their starting shooting guard is Will Barton is who they've been saying moves over to the shooting guard. If Will Barton does start playing that starting shooting guard role, how do you feel about that? Do you think Will Barton's a solid piece in the starting lineup? He's going to be that fifth. He's going to be the fifth option in this lineup, as far as I'm concerned. But how do you feel about maybe if Will Barton switches over to the two?
Um, I'm not really sure about it because Aaron Gordon definitely, I think, takes that starting spot away from Paul Millsap. So it's Joker, Aaron Gordon at the 5 and the 4, center and power forward. Jamal Murray is definitely the starting point guard. Monte Morris has been getting some minutes as a starter. I'm a fan of Monte Morris, and now that they have Facundo Campazzo coming off the bench, I think Morris can start. Before they kind of needed him in the bench to facilitate after the starters came out, but now that they have a really good facilitator coming off the bench, I think he fits well. So I put him at the 2 guard, and then you got MPJ, Michael Porter Jr. as the small forward. I don't think Will Barton needs to move into the starting lineup. He's been starting every once in a while this season. Starts a lot, actually.
Yeah.
I think he fits better as a 6th man, and I think they're going to have a really good 8-man lineup. Facundo coming off the bench, great passer, 40% three-point shooter. I really like him as a player. Then they're going to have Will Barton, who can give you 10 to 20 on any given night, volume scorer there. And then JaVale McGee, we'll get to him later, and Paul Millsap. They're actually going to have 9 guys that are all starting caliber players. They're one of the deeper teams in the NBA after this trade.
Yeah, so the Nuggets look great depth, so they look really good. I don't know. I was reading a couple Instagram posts, and it seemed like the theme was starting Will Barton at the 2. But hey, I would love that Monte Morris Jamal Murray backcourt. You would put would you put Monte Morris? You put Monte Morris at the point or the shooting guard?
It doesn't really matter. They can take turns bringing the ball.
Because I'm just traditional. I'm thinking about height wise. So
I think Morris is a bit better of a spot up shooter than Jamal Murray is. So I would probably have him at the 2. But then again, Jamal Murray his efficiency might go up if he gets to play off the ball as well. So for them, it doesn't really matter. Whatever works better when they get into actual gameplay. But like I said, the Nuggets have one of the better lineups in the league right now. And with the Lakers looking, the Lakers could fall to like 7 or 8. It wouldn't be that insane if LeBron and Anthony Davis miss extended time, which they already seem like they're going to.
You're missing. The team doesn't seem to really pick up pick up the slack when you're 2 stars. So I think we were starting to see how kind of dependent they were on LeBron and Anthony Davis, and now that they don't have him, it doesn't look good for the Lakers. From what we saw at the Hawks game when LeBron went down, doesn't look very promising for them. But you never know. Maybe they could pick up the slack. Maybe they go after Andre Drummond. Maybe that helps them a little bit. Probably not too much, but just some things to think about.
I mean, they still have two near 20 point per game scorers in their lineup with Schroeder and Montrezl Harrell. They have Kuzma, Contavious Caldwell Pope. This lineup is still really solid, really good lineup. But we're seeing how much these guys aren't meant to be first or second options, and we're really getting to see that now when they've been thrust into the spotlight all of a sudden.
They're complementary pieces for the superstars. So
we kind of already hit on this one. We got JaVale McGee to the Nuggets for Isaiah Hartenstein and some picks. Nate, this was the first trade of the day. When you saw this, what were your first thoughts?
I didn't. I was a little confused. I was telling you because I thought JaVale McGee. I thought they liked him down there. I thought he was really nice for them, and I guess he was, but he's just I guess not a part of the long term plan. I don't know. I'm not humongous on Isaiah Hartenstein. I think he has potential, but he's already like 25. He shows flashes, but I think he's a little bit too inconsistent. But there are picks in there too. So I like the fact that JaVale McGee's going back to Denver. I don't know. This trade is pretty even. It's fine. I just don't understand. I personally, if I'm the Cavs, would rather have JaVale McGee.
Watching him in a Denver jersey is going to give us flashbacks to the golden days of Shaq and a Fool. That was when JaVale McGee was at his peak.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited
Denver
though.
Nuggets and Wizards.
Other than the Shaqton aspect of this, JaVale McGee is a little bit better than Mason Plumlee, and Mason Plumlee was serviceable as the 5 off the bench last year.
Yeah.
He kind of just did the bare minimum, and that's all they needed him to do. JaVale McGee brings more energy to the Nuggets than Mason Plumlee does. He seems like a guy that just doesn't care what team he's on. He'll have fun. He'll get along with the teammates. He'll make the locker room automatically a more fun place, whether it's a win or a loss. So I'm a big fan of JaVale.
And he'll play hard.
And coming off the bench with Facundo, I mean, we talk about pick and roll combinations all the time, and we get caught up in superstar dimes. But Facu is going to throw some flashy dimes to JaVale, and JaVale can get up there and catch those. So that is going to be lethal off the bench, I think. And then you got Paul Millsap out there, can stand in the corner and knock down some open threes. The spacing for the second unit is going to be insane with Will Barton there as well. So I really like this move for the Nuggets. For the Cavs, it doesn't really make much of a difference for me. Jarrett Allen is their starting center going forward. He is their best center on the team. So it just frees minutes up for him. Hartenstein can give you 15 minutes maybe, but I would let Jarrett Allen just feel it out, get all the minutes he wants because he looks like he could be pretty good one day. Good deal from the –
I love the fit.
I think the Nuggets won this deal for sure.
Yeah, overall, yeah. This and the Aaron Gordon one, yeah, works out for the Nuggets. Hopefully, it works out well, and I'd love to see the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals. I think they have the potential to. But yeah, also on Jarrett Allen, love that fit in Cleveland. I thought that was a great deal. Then when they got Jarrett Allen, great fit, great long term center of the future. So yeah, but overall, Nuggets, great day. One of the definitely top 3 today signings and trade wise.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to possibly the biggest name dealt on the day. We're going to the Miami Heat, who got Victor Oladipo and only had to give up Kelly Olynyk, Avery Bradley, and some pick swaps. And then they're expected to get LaMarcus Aldridge. He's been bought out by the Spurs. By the time this video goes up, they might already have LaMarcus Aldridge. So, Nate, let's assume they do get LaMarcus Aldridge. Let's grade the Heat based off of everything they've done so far and assuming they get Aldridge. What is your grade for them?
My grade is a straight up A. I think I think I still don't get. We talked about this later. I still don't get the whole low balling for Victor Oladipo. Sure, he's been a little injury prone recently, but I still think even when he's healthy, he's still a really nice piece, a really nice weapon. And and they only had to get rid of Olenek, who they would have had to get rid of at some point, and Avery Bradley, who's basically at the point in his career where he's on 1 year rentals. So I think this is a real win even before they added LaMarcus Aldridge. When they got Depot, I thought it was a B plus. Now it's definitely an A, simply because you got LaMarcus Aldridge. He may be older, he's 35, but hey, that man can still ball. He's still putting up 17 to 18 points a game, and he's still. I like the prospect of him, a front court of him and Bam Adebayo. I really like the thought about that. I like the spacing of that. I like the versatility of both of them, and then Jimmy Butler and Oladipo along with Goran Dragic or Kendrick Nunn or Tyler Hero starting, whoever they have. I think this definitely propels the Heat up. Above the Nets and the Sixers, no, but I think they make a real good case they could get above the. This works out for them, get above the Bucks at the very least.
I'm
So a for me
the
personally.
Rockets, man. The Rockets are down bad right now. Like they really traded James Harden for Kelly Olynyk, a pick swap, and Avery Bradley, and they could have had Jared Allen, and they could have had Jared Allen and Karis LeVert, but instead they have Kelly Olynyk, Avery Bradley, and a pick swap. The Rockets, I feel horribly for Rockets fans right now. The way they messed that up so badly. Christian Wood looks promising, but other than that, this team has nothing right now. They have nothing going for them. Eric Gordon is not the player he used to be. He has no interest in being there anymore. They had no longer have PJ Tucker. This I don't even want to talk about the Rockets. It's just too sad to talk about the Rockets.
Yeah, and the fact that these guys were just 3 years ago competing for a Western Conference championship, and now they finally just broke their 20 plus game losing streak. That's pretty it's pretty abysmal. It's a rough time to be a Houston fan in general. I mean, you see all the things in football too with J.J. Watt and Deshaun Watson, and then you bring in this. It's just poor Houston. My
And the
heart goes out
Astros got caught for
to
cheating.
Houston. Yeah, it's just not a great day for not a great year, not a great time for Houston sports in general. So yeah, Houston's not looking good. Their shining beacon of hope is Christian Wood, but is he going to stay long term? I don't know. Um and how long do the Rockets stick with John Wall? You know what I mean? There's a lot of questions, holes on that team too. Um But the funny thing is, they won on a 20-game losing streak, and they're still not the worst team in the West.
But you know what I do like about the Rockets?
Poor Timberwolves fans.
I do like that they have Wall and Wood. So they have the foundation there. They have the wood in the wall. They just need to build around. They need to build a house, and they have two of the main materials. They need to build a Daniel house.
I think they
Yeah,
also need to cash in Kevin Porter Jr. I think if he sticks around, is going to be nice for them. And Jay Sean Tate. I love Jay Sean Tate's game. So yeah,
they have a.
those are probably their core four right now at this point. I think.
If we're building a house out of NBA teams, the Heat have. I mean, the Rockets have a Daniel house. They have a John Wall, and they have some Christian Wood. So I mean, might as well call them like the Houston Builders or something like that. They're set. Moving on to the Heat side of things, though. What do we expect from Victor Oladipo? This trade kind of makes me think that Oladipo did not confirm with the Heat that he would be signing long term. If he were signing for like a 2 or 3 year deal, I think they'd have to give up more than that. There's no way the Rockets would do it for anything less than probably a first if Oladipo
Wait,
says
I
I'm
thought there were reports that came out that the Heat and Oladipo would be looking for a long term 2 to 3 year deal.
and the Heat have been since the bubble one of those teams that Oladipo had on his list. So it makes sense that he would sign long term, but it just shows how little teams think of Victor Oladipo right now. He's at
Yeah,
one of the lower points in his career. I didn't realize this. He's been on 5 different teams in 7 seasons. You don't really
yeah,
think
it's
of his
it's it's
career
been a
with the
rough one.
Magic and the Thunder. That kind of falls into the back of your mind. You really just think of Pacers, Oladipo, as the
I
start
mean,
of his.
this was the most improved player at one point. Almost took out LeBron in a 7-game series. It was like they lost, I think, by like 4 points in Game 7 with the Pacers. Yeah, he's had a couple rough patches, but hey, I still think even with all these rough patches and injuries, even for the Rockets, he was putting up productive and solid numbers. And I think he buys in really well to that Miami culture. And Victor Oladipo, we know, is a defender. And so Jimmy Butler's going to expect the best. Jimmy Butler, that's his team. He's going to be expecting for the team to play their hearts out. And I think Victor Oladipo is going to use this to show why he deserves big money, to show why he shouldn't have been lowballed for second round picks while he's still relevant. So I'm excited to see that. This makes the Heat real contenders
Yeah, I
for
agree.
that Eastern Conference championship.
It at least makes them dangerous. They're going to be a team that you don't want to see in the first round, and that's a team that the Celtics probably will play in the first round. Looking at
Yeah,
how
and
now.
I don't know, with all of our problems, and they just seem to be getting better. They're going to get LaMarcus Aldridge, who I wanted personally, but
And they have
yeah,
the best coach in the NBA.
yeah, Spoelstra's freaking phenomenal. It's just there's all depth. You still got you. We haven't even discussed Precious Achua. We haven't even discussed Kendrick Nunn, Duncan Robinson.
Yeah, they did
Like
all this, and they
goodness,
didn't give up Duncan Robinson or Tyler
or
Hero.
Tyler Hero. My trade was, I thought, at least Duncan Robinson if I'm Houston, but Kelly Olynyk and Avery Bradley, that really didn't make sense for me on Houston's
Yeah.
side. But hey, what are you gonna do? They were just trying to get him out of there, I guess.
All right. Moving on to uh, a trade so small I couldn't even find an article on it. We had to go to Twitter to get the information on this. And speaking of Twitter, Woj stole Shams' lunch money today. Woj absolutely bodied Shams. Every trade, Woj reported it first. He reclaimed the throne. There was some conversation during the draft who was better, Woj or Shams, because Shams was getting all those draft picks out earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But Woj takes no prisoners today. He just came and he saw and he conquered.
Well, Woj is the GOAT.
He
He
is.
reclaimed his
You
throne.
don't
I'm
bet
glad to
against
see it.
Adrian Wojnarowski.
You don't. You
There's
really
a
don't bet
reason they're
against
called Woj
Woj.
bombs, not sham bombs. So as you can see here, the full Sixers Thunder Knicks deal. Philly gets
Mm-hmm.
George Hill and Iggy Brosdakis, aka the boy from A Year Without a Santa Claus. Um, OKC gets Tony Bradley, Philly's second round picks in 2025 and 2026, and Austin Rivers. Tony Bradley, who has been called the truth by Joel Embiid. And the Knicks get Terrence Ferguson, Vincent Poirier, a 2021 second round pick from Philly. Do you mind if I start on this one, Nate?
Yeah, go for it.
So when I saw this, I kind of got the sense that the Sixers were out on the Kyle Lowry sweepstakes. And it seems
Yeah.
like I was right on that because not only did a Lowry trade not happen at all, but they said they're out on it. It's going to
Yeah,
be
Woj literally
Lakers.
tweeted they were out on it.
So I feel a little bit badly for Lowry because if there was a team he was going to go to, it would probably be the Sixers. Would be my top choice for him, just because I really like him and this is his hometown team. It'd be a good feel good story for him. But nonetheless, George Hill, I think he fits well with Philadelphia coming off the bench as their backup point guard. He doesn't really fill any holes for them because they don't really have any holes. So he just improves them. It's not like they needed this piece, but he makes them better nonetheless.
Yeah.
Under getting Tony Bradley, I like that piece a lot. He was playing really well with Joel Embiid out. I'm a little confused about what Al Horford's role is with the Thunder right now. I was thinking he might get traded. He wasn't really talked about on the trade block, but the Thunder have no use for him right now, and I can't imagine he wants to play for them because he still doesn't have a championship in his career.
Yeah. When it comes to Horford, do you think it's a possibility of a buyout on the horizon?
No, his contract is too big, I think.
God, I
So
haven't looked at his contract in a minute. That's my bad, y'all. Yeah, I don't know how many people. Maybe they couldn't get rid of him because nobody wanted him. Big contract, aging Al Horford, declining at a fast rate. So that doesn't blame me. I really didn't. I think we agreed. I really didn't like that they got rid of Tony Bradley. I was like, oh, like that really sucks. He was playing really nice for y'all. And as for George Hill, I mean, you said it best. I mean, that when they made this trade, we knew they were out on Kyle Lowry, and I think it was Woj who stated that after they were out on Kyle Lowry, they went and looked for cheaper options. And George Hill is a solid role player, and he's a cheaper option, and I think he's going to bring you He's good. He's going to bring some nice energy, and he's going to bring some scoring to this
Well,
team.
apparently, what the
Not getting
Raptors
any
wanted
younger.
from Philadelphia was Matisse Thybulle,
Oof,
um,
ooh.
they, Tyrese Maxey, and 2 first-round picks. Were the Raptors asking for too much there, or is that something that the Sixers?
Absolutely. If I'm the Raptors, I would have been willing to give up. And Kyle, they got to understand. I don't think the Raptors understand how old Kyle Lowry is. Okay, I would do that maybe for like prime in his 20s Kyle Lowry, but I wouldn't do that. And even then, I'd be hesitant. As 2 firsts. I would have done for him Tyrese Maxey in a first. I think defensively Matisse Thybulle is too valuable for them, and I would have been hesitant anyway, even to give up Tyrese Maxey. Goodness, has he been playing solid his rookie year? But yeah, not only both of them or one of them, but 2 first-round picks for an aging Kyle Lowry. That's way too much. Didn't make any sense. So I don't blame Philly for being out. I'm glad they didn't try to force it if that was the asking price.
Yeah, and I think this kind of is a good thing for Philadelphia because it makes me think that Joel Embiid's injury is not very serious because they only have one start. They only have one NBA caliber center right now in Dwight Howard. So obviously they think Joel Embiid is coming back soon, or else they would have held on to Tony Bradley and made this deal in the offseason. Because like I said, George Hill was not a piece they needed right now. They could have waited and gotten somebody in free agency, or just not done it at all and still have been fine. So I'm a little confused with that pick or with that trade, unless Joel Embiid is getting healthy sooner than we all expect, because Tony Bradley was filling in for him pretty well. The Knicks, it doesn't really phase me what they have. Terrence Ferguson is going to fit fine. Vincent Poirier probably will not get any minutes. And the 2021 second round picks kind of have no weight with me, especially when it's a team from like Philly who's going to not get a great pick. So the Knicks kind of didn't do anything here. They freed up some minutes for Emmanuel quickly by getting rid of Austin Rivers. So on that front, I like it. Overall, this trade was just one that was unnecessary for all three teams, but not a bad trade, I don't think.
Yeah, I think OKC definitely got a stud in Tony Bradley, but yeah. As for the Knicks, yeah, Vincent Poirier solid. I've never been high on Terrence Ferguson as a player. He was cool. He was okay in the dunk contest, but overall as a player, and leaves a lot to be desired. And then Philly getting Iggy Brazdeikis. I don't see him. I don't know how long he's gonna be. He's probably gone after the season. I'm assuming because I don't think any team's future. No offense, Iggy features Iggy Brazdeikis in
Yeah,
their future.
I'm gonna
So
have to agree with you there.
it was a really weird trade. At first I didn't even know it was a three-way trade. I thought it was just between OKC and Philly, and then I saw that it was the Knicks, and I was like, kind of unnecessary. The teams would have been fine going the way they were without making these deals. I almost felt like this was a deal they felt they needed changes because they had to. Like they could have all kept their thing, all their pieces, these pieces, and been fine. But it was almost like the pressure of getting a trade done before the trade deadline is why they made this trade. So I don't know. That's a weird take to have, but yeah, really unnecessary trade. Not the biggest fan of it for any side really.
Yeah, and while we're on the topic of Philadelphia, I forgot to include this one up here, but they did trade Storm and Norman Powell for Gary Trent Jr. and Rodney Hood. Who do you think won that deal?
Um, I think the Raptors won that deal, and they got Rodney Hood out of it. Solid role player. I think if you ask me, I think they won because simply if you ask me, would I rather have Norman Powell or Gary Trent? I'm gonna take Gary Trent every time, simply
I'm
because
the
Gary
complete
Trent.
opposite.
Oh, you're taking Norman Powell over Gary Trent.
Yeah.
I just think, sure, Norman Powell's got about 2 inches on him, good size, but Norman Powell's already like 27, 28. Not the greatest defender. I've seen sparks of great defensiveness out of Gary Trent. I do think he's a better scorer, and again, he's so much younger. This is only his, I believe, second or third season. I honestly didn't see Portland getting rid of him. I thought him and Anthony Simons were going to be the future. For right now, I think the move makes sense for Portland. But I think Raptors just got a nice young stud. Uh, so yeah, so you're higher on Norman Powell. Tell me, why are you higher on Norman Powell than Gary Trent
Well,
personally?
I think the Blazers definitely won this trade because Gary Trent Jr. as good as he is coming off the bench, he is not really a first option off the bench. He's a spot up shooter right now. Norman Powell can have the ball and can create for himself, whether it's hitting a three off the dribble, getting to the rim, mid range. He's going to get 20 points per game in Portland, I think. And yes, he might not be defensively inclined, but neither is Enes Kanter, and neither is Damian Lillard, and neither is CJ McCollum. And neither is Jusuf Nurkic when he comes back. So this team clearly is leaning into the we're going to outscore you mentality. And Norman Powell really helps with that. He's going to be one of the best bench players in the league. There are only a few guys coming off the bench that can hang with him bucket for bucket. Jordan Clarkson is one of them. And that might be it right now. Lou Williams isn't at that point anymore where he could give you 20 on any given night. It's really, when you talk about bench players, it's Jordan Clarkson and Norman Powell. They are elite in what they do. They come off the bench and they get buckets. So I really like him going to Portland. As far as Toronto goes, I think I texted you when this happened, like Raptors are starting to get their feet wet. This is just the beginning because I really thought this was the start of a Lowry deal.
Yeah. I for sure
But
thought Lowry was getting dealt today, but hey, it didn't happen.
I'm thinking what probably happened is Lowry being such a big like fan, if you want to say that, of Toronto, like really wanting them to succeed. Maybe he went to them and said, I'll play out the rest of the season and then we can orchestrate a sign and trade so you guys get more back from me.
Very
I don't know if he
possible.
would do that, but he obviously was fine playing in Toronto for the rest of the season. He said that before the season started. He said that a couple weeks ago.
I mean, I'm sure he would be fine with retiring with Toronto. I mean,
Yeah.
that's where he's had his most success. That seems to be where he's enjoyed himself the most and made the best bonds. He really likes his coach. He really likes the culture and the fans of Toronto. So, I don't know. Yeah, it's very possible he could be trying to do what's best for their team, even on the way out. Shows the kind of person he is, shows the kind of guy and basketball player he is. So, I for sure thought he was getting dealt, but you know what? I'm glad he's going to get to finish the season out in Toronto at least.
Kyle Lowry is one of my favorite players in the league, and stuff like this just proves it. I mean, all of those years where Toronto was right there on the edge when they were LeBronto, and they got beat every year in the playoffs, he never made a fuss, never demanded a trade, never left, even though his contract expired at times, always re signed. Then his best friend gets traded out of nowhere, blindsides everybody, and he had some he and Masai Ujiri I don't think like talked for a little bit, but he got over it. He came to work like a professional. He showed up in the playoffs, broke the stigma of Lowry can't play playoff basketball. So not only did he come to work and continue to play after his best friend got traded, but he stepped up his game. He got better for the betterment of the team, and he led the young guys like Pascal Siakam. We've seen since Kawhi Leonard has gone elsewhere that he was definitely not the leader on that Toronto Raptors team. It was Kyle Lowry. Um, and he was just a great role model for all the young guys, never made a fuss when his friend got traded. And then Kawhi leaves, and everybody's counting the Raptors out, and he sticks with them. He leads them to a top seed in the Eastern Conference, and they perform in the playoffs. So he's just a really great teammate, it seems like, really loves the city of Toronto. And I'd be happy if they trade him and he wins a championship with another team. But ultimately, he's always going to be a Toronto Raptor, and he's the best Raptor of all time.
Yeah, as of right now, I think it's easy to say Kyle Lowry is the greatest Raptor of all time. Good for him, man.
All right, moving on to more of a fringe deal. The Mavericks trade for J.J. Redick and Nicola Melli, and they send away James Johnson and Wes Iwundu, also a second-round draft pick.
Boy, poor James Johnson just gets tossed around.
I know.
Like similar to Trevor, not as bad as Trevor Ariza, but similar to Trevor Ariza, where he's just thrown. Like here's a piece, send him to the Pelicans now, like Mavericks, Timberwolves, Heat, Pelicans, Grizzlies. Like he's just all over the place, man. But I thought personally that all the reports were pointing to JJ Redick getting a buyout because there were all these things about him trying to go play for Brooklyn or his hometown of Brooklyn. And then this happens. I wasn't expecting this. I think it helps. I mean, again, it's one of those things for the Mavericks. More shooting. You can't ever have enough shooting in this league. So he's going to be a great spot up shooter for him. He's a little bit older, but it's great. And they had to give up James Johnson and Wes Iwundu. I think that's I don't know. I think that's kind of a steal, honestly. And Nicola Melli is not even that bad. So I think Mavs definitely won this. Yeah, just a little confusing personally. I thought he was going to get bought out and head over to Brooklyn.
Yeah, I think he fits better in a team like Brooklyn where he just has to do one thing and one thing only. With the Mavericks, he might be asked to do a little bit more. I think he fits well with them. He's a phenomenal shooter, one of the best of all time. He's going to fit really well coming off the bench with Tim Hardaway Jr. and Jalen Brunson next to him. Brunson really likes to get others involved. He's a great, just definition of a solid point guard.
Yeah.
So I really like that pairing in the backcourt. And just as long as he gets his shots up, he's going to be happy. And just as long as the Mavericks are prepared for all of the times JJ Redick will get exposed on defense, they just have to be ready for that because every time Redick is on the floor, he is a liability on defense. His shooting kind of makes up for it a little bit. At least it did a couple years ago when he was younger
When
and
he
he
was
could
younger, yeah.
fly around those picks a little bit faster. It's a solid trade. I don't see him finishing his career in Dallas, but kind of one that didn't need to happen. If it didn't happen, the Mavericks would still be in the same place they are right now, I think.
Yeah, you get a little more shooting, get a little bit worse defensively, but yeah, this is another trade that I was just kind of confused by, to be honest.
Yep. All right. Last trade of the day, last major trade at least. There were some minor ones. Marquise Chris got traded for cash.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about
Wanamaker got
Matt.
traded for cash
Matt Thomas went, I believe,
to the
was it
Jazz.
for a pick to the Jazz? And then another thing, Toronto giving up Terrence Davis. I like Terrence Davis. I didn't understand that much either, to be quite honest with you, sending him to the Kings.
Yeah. So this is the last big trade of the day. Rajon Rondo goes to the uh, Los Angeles Clippers, and Lemon Pepper Lou is gonna be playing in Atlanta next to Atlantic City. I'm sure he's happy about this. But who do you think won this trade? Kind of two old point guards just swapping teams.
Personally, I think the Clippers won only because this is really they obviously didn't find what they were looking for in Lou Will or Pat Bev. That's why they're on the chopping block. I mean, Rajon Rondo is pretty old, but he's a very traditional point guard, and he's a great facilitator, great passer, great playmaker. Occasionally will hit a three or a midi every once in a while. I think that honestly, Rajon Rondo personally to me to the Clippers makes more sense than Lou Williams to the Hawks. I don't see Lou Williams really wanting to stay with the Hawks. Personally, like I have a feeling he finishes this season. I don't know what his personally his contract situation. If you could chime in on that, if you know what his contract situation is right now.
Well, we're on the computer. We might as well search it.
Yeah, what is his contract? Before I say that, I want to know what his contract because if he's a free agent this year, then I definitely see him leaving. I don't
He's a
see
free
him
agent in
staying.
2021, unrestricted.
Yeah, see, I don't see him. I don't see him staying with the Hawks. He'll finish out this season. I'm assuming, but
And then he'll probably retire.
yeah, maybe. I just don't see. I don't see him being happy with the Hawks, but I do see the Clippers being happy with Rajon Rondo. So I think they made a pretty good trade here.
This Clippers team gives off strong championship Raptors vibes. Obviously, we got the Kawhi and Serge Ibaka connection both on that championship team.
Mm-hmm.
John Rondo is kind of has similar characteristics to Kyle Lowry in that he's a facilitator first. He's a great leader. He'll get others involved. He can pick apart the opponent's defense, and he kind of just is a calming factor whenever the game feels like it's getting out of hand.
Mm-hmm. Not the
Well,
shooter Kyle Lowry is, but
definitely
he
not.
can still score a little bit.
And will defend as well.
Yeah,
Um,
and also he turns it up in the playoffs. We know playoff Rondo's a whole different breed.
and then Zubac, kind of similar to exiting prime Marc Gasol. Decent offensive players, can kind of stretch the floor, but more defensive minded, solid passers. So this team gives off really strong Toronto Raptors championship vibes. We'll see if it ends the same way. I don't think it will. But Lou Williams to the Hawks, like you said, kind of scratching my head about that because the Hawks don't really seem to know what they want to do. Now that they have Nate McMillan at the helm, it seems like they've just unleashed their offense and their defense. Kevin Huerter, the Maryland Terrapin Kevin Huerter, has been balling. He is the backcourt of the future with Trae Young. They kept on to John Collins. They showed that they're willing to get a little uncomfortable, and John Collins seems like he might want to stay. So the Hawks have a lot of great pieces. Cam Reddish seems expendable. They might get a lot for him. Still have DeAndre Hunter there. So
Yeah.
this Hawks team is going to be scary, but Lou Williams, I think he might just ride the bench, maybe come out
Yeah,
occasionally.
he
But
doesn't really fit their scheme or whatever they are, like you said, are trying to do. It just doesn't make sense. He's pretty old. He's at like towards the back end of his career. I Yeah, again, I don't think personally. I just don't think he wants to play for Atlanta. If at this point, I feel like he wants to play for a contending team. He just got traded away from a contending team. I mean, the Hawks are playing nice; they're on that win streak, but are they really a super contending team at this point? I mean, like they're solid. If they make the playoffs, I see them as first round exits. But yeah, I just don't see why he would be excited to go from the Clippers to the Atlanta Hawks personally.
well, we both know why. That Atlanta nightlife.
The Atlanta nightlife hit different.
All right, so I think we can call it there with the Atlanta nightlife. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully, we're gonna get some exciting news, maybe some buyouts soon. We can get back and talk about those. Nate, thanks for coming along, and I had a great time. See you guys next time on the Debate Mates.
Bye, guys.